Chapter 11 Come and Kill Me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a restaurant in Shield's town, after eating for a while, Luffy couldn't help but admired, "Madam Boss, the food you cooked is really delicious." Lin Hai couldn't help but said, "Of course free prostitution is delicious." The landlady couldn't help but smile and said, "I want to thank you for saving my daughter. This meal money is my treat for you." After chatting for a while, Luffy asked doubtfully, "Can you tell me why the pirate hunter Zoro was caught and taken to the naval base? Didn't he pay for food?" That everyone couldn't help but darken their faces. The little girl couldn't help but explain, "No, that's not why my elder brother was arrested." The proprietress stepped forward and explained, "More than 20 days ago, Bulumeb, the son of Captain Minka of this town, brought his pet dog to this restaurant for dinner because the vicious dog wanted to attack my daughter. Zoro, who was eating on the side, beat the vicious dog, and because of this he provoked Bellumibo. Bulumeb wanted to execute us on the grounds that his father's dignity was violated. Zoro, on the other hand, surrendered, and the two agreed that Zoro would be imprisoned for a month voluntarily, and at the same time, Bulumeb would no longer blame anyone else. This is roughly what happened." At this time, Nami, who had reacted, couldn't help scolding Lin Hai angrily, "You bastard, isn't there food in your own bowl?" After Lin Hai swallowed the food, he replied, "It's rare that we meet again, so don't be so stingy." Before Nami could say anything, a very arrogant guy walked in outside, and people in the hotel didn't dare to speak. With his yellow hair, suit, coquettish pace, and uninhibited expression, Lin Hai on the other side couldn't help but want to punch him. "This person is Bulumeb, the son of Navy Captain Monka." The sailor behind Bulumeb said, "Master Bulumeb, that pirate hunter has been hungry for more than 20 days, but he seems to be still very energetic." Bellumibo said playfully, "Ha ha ha, what does it matter? We will execute him tomorrow." Luffy on the side heard this and couldn't help but punch Bulumeb directly. Luffy said angrily, "What do you take the agreement to mean?" Bulumeb held his cheek and couldn't help but said, "I want to go back and tell my father that I will execute you all." Luffy said angrily, "Come here, who will be afraid of you?" Bellumibo replied, "Just wait for me, I will go back now, and then I will execute you." After Bellumibo left with his followers, the boss lady on the side hesitated to speak. Lin Hai comforted him, Boss, don't worry, I'll go to the naval base and beat up that guy named Minka. Done, make sure he doesn't dare to trouble you." The landlady sighed and couldn't help but said, "Well, Minka has an army. You'd better leave here quickly." Lin Hai didn't want to explain anything, but asked, "Luffy, are you full?" Naval base. Luffy walked up to Zoro and said, "You are so amazing. You can survive without eating for so many days." "Zoro, I'm different from you. I have things that I must accomplish and I can't just fall down." "Luffy, what a strange person. My name is Monkey D. Luffy, and I am the man who wants to become the Pirate King. The one next to me is called Lin Hai. My partner, you should also be my partner." Zoro raised his head and said in disbelief, "Hi, Pirate King. Do you know what these 3 words mean?" Luffy said with a smile, "The Pirate King is the Pirate King, what else do I need? I will untie you and you can be my partner." Zoro objected, "Pirates are all bad people, and I don't want to be their accomplice." Luffy said, "Aren't you also a bad person in the eyes of others?" Zoro replied, "I don't care what others think of me, as long as I have a clear conscience." Luffy said, "Then I have decided that you will be my partner." Zoro said angrily, "Don't let me make my own decisions." At this time, Lin Hai came over and said, "Zoran, that idiot's son is planning to execute you tomorrow. How dare you naively think that you can survive a month?" Zoro was very surprised and exclaimed, "What did you say?" Lin Hai stepped forward and poked Sauron's head, and couldn't help but taunted, "In the hotel just now, the man named Bellumibo said that you will be executed tomorrow, Baga." Zoro said depressedly, "You bastard." Luffy stepped forward and said, "Zoran, those Navy want to execute you. If you resist, you will be the enemy of the Navy. If you don't resist, you will be killed. So, you have no choice but to become a pirate with us." Sauron said helplessly. Are you a devil? Luffy said happily. Hi ha ha ha. So you agreed? Zoro said, in this case, there is nothing we can do. Since I am destined to be a pirate, even if my reputation is not good, I will make my name famous all over the world, but let me explain in advance that my dream is to become the world's best swordsman. If I am unable to realize my ambition because of you, just wait to commit suicide and make amends to me. Luffy said, the world's best swordsman. That's the title the Pirate King's partner should have. Zoro, you really dare to say that, but my sword was taken away by that idiot's son. It should be placed in the building next to it. Luffy replied directly, I'll get it back for you. Zoro couldn't help but remind him, you're going the wrong way. Ignoring Zoro's words, Luffy ran a short distance outside the base, grabbed the railing, and then used his rubber fruit ability to bounce directly to the top of the Navy building. Looking at Luffy's elongated arms, Zoro couldn't help but ask, what kind of monster is he? Lin Hai poked Sauron's head again with his hand and mocked, he has eaten a devil fruit. In other words, our captain is a rubber man. Even this basic ability can make you show such an expression. Can you become the world's best swordsman? The faces of the people next to Lin Hai were covered with black lines. Zoro gritted his teeth and said slowly, you bastard, sooner or later, I will chop you down. Lin Hai stood in front of Sauron with his arms folded. In the confused eyes of everyone, Lin Fan said, I'm right in front of you, come and chop me. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a coquettish operation. Sauron stared at Lin Hai closely and couldn't help but said, you bastard. Lin Hai continued, come on, come and chop me down if you are my mate. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a coquettish operation. KB's eyes twitched, but he still reminded, Mr. Lin Hai, should we untie Mr. Sauron's rope first? Lin Hai looked scared and explained, what if I untied his rope and he came to chop me? If I was chopped by him, wouldn't you become an executioner? How could I let you do such evil? Okay. You want to be a righteous navy, Kirby. Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a coquettish operation. Why isn't there a 3-hit combo? What a huge loss, it's rare to get an inspiration. Before Lin Hai was depressed, many navies had already walked out of the gate of the naval building. Chapter 12 I'm going to kill you. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Sauron saw Captain Menka, the supreme ruler of this town, he immediately said anxiously, hey, help me untie my rope quickly. Ignoring Sauron's words, Lin Hai's attention was already attracted by Menka. Look, he is more than 2 meters tall and wearing a white coat. He actually has a big axe tied to his hand and a small door on his mouth. Lin Hai was very confused, how did he eat? Also, what should he do when he goes to the toilet with such a big axe in his hand? Looking at Meng Ka's coquettish swaying posture, Lin Hai's eyes shone brightly and said, see Gaoi, hey, that big leader, how about coming to our ship to be a cook? In that case, you can save even the knives, and also yes, do you use an axe to scrape when you go to the toilet? Ding, congratulations to the host for completing a coquettish operation. As Lin Hai asked, everyone present stood stunned. Zoro behind Lin Hai temporarily forgot to ask Lin Hai to help him untie the rope. All the navy opposite Lin Hai looked at Menka in fear. From the expression on Menka's face, it was clear that he was about to go berserk. But Lin Hai didn't have that consciousness. Lin Hai continued, I heard your name is Menka, right? Hey, you have an ugly mouth. We won't make fun of you, but why do you hurt yourself like this? I really didn't expect that someone would put that thing on their mouth. I don't think it looks very good, as the saying goes, your body, hair, and skin depend on your parents. You are really an unfilial son. My child, why do you want to harm yourself? While talking, Lin Hai actually started singing. Look, congratulations to the host for completing a sexy operation. Menka, who couldn't bear it anymore, ordered directly to the sailors behind him, what are you waiting for? Shoot me and execute these rebels directly. In an instant, many Navy troops were ready and aimed their guns in Lin Hai's direction. Zoro couldn't help but shed a few drops of cold sweat on his forehead. Is that the end? However, Lin Hai did not panic. Instead, he turned to Sauron and the trembling Kabi and said, "Look at your virtues. Keep an eye on them." I saw Lin Hai taking off his slippers, and then introduced, "My slippers are made in Donghai Windmill Village, wipe them." Before the introduction was finished, the Navy on the opposite side had already started shooting. Space field, space exchange. Lin Hai turned on his ability and made a rotating movement with his hand in the air. All the bullets that were fired turned around and were reflected at the feet of the Navy. Call out, Lin Hai disappeared. Just as everyone was looking for where Lin Hai had gone, Monka had already let out a scream. Pa! Lin Hai threw his slippers directly on Monka's face, and then said angrily, "Do you think you are awesome? Do you know that it is rude to interrupt someone else's speech? Behavior? Do you know that I was almost scared to death by you just now?" Clap clap clap. The slipper made close contact with the cheek, and the sound was quite clear. Ah! Monka didn't know what was going on. He didn't understand how the guy in front of him with a slipper slapping him appeared. Moreover, the force was too great. Belling. There was a sound of glass breaking above the Navy building. It turns out that Luffy, who went to help Zoro find a knife, is back. Seeing Lin Hai beating someone with his slippers, Luffy asked Zoro in confusion, "What's wrong with Lin Hai?" "Huh? Lin Hai, I didn't expect you to be a bully. I want to challenge you." Luffy exhaled 2 puffs of air from his nostrils, and everyone turned their heads mechanically to look at this weird Luffy. Lin Hai stopped beating Monka because he had passed out, but this Luffy is actually looking for trouble. It seems necessary to beat him up too. Then, Lin Hai stood up, pointed at Luffy with his slippers and said, "What do you want? Do you believe I will beat you?" Luffy said eagerly, "Who is afraid of whom? Come on." Kabi quickly stepped forward and hugged Luffy's waist to explain what happened just now. "Ah ha ha ha." Luffy scratched his head and said with a smile, "What, it turns out that's the case. Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Lin Hai is indeed a good person. Zoro on the other side had black lines all over his face, and he finally couldn't help but roared, "Stop it, you 2 bastards, and quickly untie me." However, the Navy on the side seemed not to hear Sauron's words, but looked blankly at the unconscious Monka, followed by a burst of cheers. "Yohu, the tyrant Monka has been defeated, everyone, we are free." Monka was really knocked down. Am I dreaming? Try hitting me quickly. Ha ha ha, finally, I don't have to do anything against my will anymore. Ignoring the cheers of these Navy, Lin Hai opened his system interface. Host, Lin Hai, strength, 1400, 1300 plus 100, agility, 140, 130 plus 10, physical strength, 2700, 2300 plus 400, overlord color domineering, LV2, shock the opponent, can control the release freely. For those with weak will, it will be stunned directly. Coquettish coin, 7800.1, 6800.1 plus 1000, space backpack, knife, sword, alias, Gao phone, friendly reminder from the system. Host, please keep up your efforts and show off your skills. Lin Hai once again opened the interface between Luffy and Zoro. Luffy, strength, 2000. Agility, 155. Physical strength, 3700. Potential, strong when encountering strength, unlimited potential, turning bad into good. Zoro, strength, 1500. Agility, 130. Physical strength, 2500. Potential, strong when encountering strength. Unlimited potential, possessing violent attributes. When faced with enemy taunts, there is a chance of slapping the opponent in the face. Severe roadblocks. Seeing their system interface, Lin Hai couldn't help but sigh, these 2 guys are indeed monsters. However, why does my property panel not display potential? Before Lin Hai could continue to think, he saw that after Luffy untied the rope, Zoro fell directly to the ground. Lin Hai walked over very curiously and asked, "Zolong, I heard that you have been tied there for more than 20 days. What should you do when you have an urgent need to urinate or need to go to the toilet? That everyone looked at Zoro curiously. Sauron's face turned red from suppressing the pain, and he said angrily, Lin Hai, you bastard, I'm going to chop you down. When Nami, who was in the building, heard Lin Hai's words, she was stunned for a moment, then covered her mouth and couldn't help but chuckle. Chapter 13, Come and Kill Me If You Are a Partner. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In a restaurant in Shields Town, just after dealing with Minka, Lin Hai and others were invited by the little girl to come here for dinner. Ah, I feel so full, after all I haven't eaten in so many days. Zoro rubbed his bloated belly happily, but when they saw the stacks of small bowls in front of Lin Hai and Luffy, they couldn't help but wonder, why do you eat more than me? Luffy smiled and said, because it's delicious. Lin Hai explained, Luffy was kicked out of the village because he was too edible, so he had no choice but to become a pirate. Pfft. The orange drink spurted out from KB's nostrils, and he couldn't help but exclaimed, is that so? Then Luffy said nothing to me that would risk his life. Is it a lie? Lin Hai nodded and said, yes, you were deceived by Luffy. Ha ha ha. Zoro nodded and said, I think Lin Hai is right. Luffy was driven out by the people in the village. By the way, what about you, Lin Hai? Me? Lin Hai pointed at himself, and everyone couldn't help but look at Lin Hai curiously. Ahem. Lin Hai wiped his hair coquettishly and explained, because I'm so handsome, those girls always pester me, and I can't stand their harassment, so I follow them. We went to sea together with Luffy, you're right Luffy. Just as Luffy was about to retort, Lin Hai took a piece of chicken leg and stuffed it into his mouth. Zoro glanced at Lin Hai and changed the subject with a dark look on his face. Luffy, you said you wanted to be the Pirate King. You must have recruited a lot of people. Where are the people? Luffy swallowed the chicken drumstick in his mouth without chewing it. Then he said without hesitation, it's just the three of us. 3. Zoro said with a black line on his face, what kind of pirate group is this? Luffy explained, what does it matter? The three of us are very strong. Very strong. Zoro accepted this reason, but still asked, where is the ship? Where is our pirate ship? Lin Hai pointed out the window with his knife and fork and could still see the boat at the coast. At this time, there was a puppy peeing in the direction of the boat. Seeing Sauron's twitching eyebrows, Lin Hai followed his line of sight curiously, and immediately shouted, what a courageous dog. How dare you pee on my boat, get out of here. Luffy waved his hands indifferently and said, don't worry, it's just a puppy peeing. There's no need to be angry, right? Lin Hai lifted up Luffy's collar and asked, a pirate ship is the face of the entire crew. If someone pees on your head, do you think it's okay? Ah. Luffy said quickly, then what are you waiting for? Go and beat that dog. Zoro on the side slapped his forehead. For some reason, he always felt that he was on the wrong ship. After packing up his things, Kirby joined the Kremlin Navy and parted ways with Luffy and others. After getting on the boat, Lin Hai couldn't help but ask, hey Luffy, why didn't you see Nami along the way? Does any of us know how to get to the next island? Luffy shook his head and said, I don't know, but just floating like this will always lead to the next island, right? Huh. Zoro said speechlessly, is this possible? Ha ha ha. Lin Hai said speechlessly, why not? Last time, Luffy and I almost drowned in the sea just because we were floating. Luffy patted Lin Hai's shoulder and comforted him, don't worry, aren't we alive? Ha 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 ha. Sauron said thoughtfully, leave your fate to God. No, I want to get off the boat. Get to the shore quickly. Soon, the boat was sailing in the vast sea. Luffy asked, Lin Hai, in addition to finding a navigator and a chef, we must first find a musician. Musician? Zoro asked in surprise, hey Luffy, what do you think sailing is? Lin Hai explained, if we want to be a tasteful pirate, of course we need to find a musician to support the appearance. Especially during battles, let him play an exciting background music. That would be so interesting. Yeah. Luffy's eyes lit up and said, background music, background music. Zoro said angrily, you two bastards, stop it now. If you rock it any further, the boat will capsize. Lin Hai patted Sauron on the shoulder and took out a cup of tea from the space backpack. Zoran, don't care too much about the outcome of things. The process is the most important, especially when you meet a beautiful woman. Remember, it's all me. Luffy didn't listen to Lin Hai's words at all, but drooled and said, Lin Hai, give me a drink quickly, I want it too. Zoro was surprised and asked, where did your tea come from? By the way, when you were at the naval base, your body skills disappeared strangely. Could it be that you are also a devil fruit user? Lin Hai took out 2 cups of tea from the space backpack and handed them to the two of them, and explained, I am a person with abilities who ate the space fruit. Although I have incredible abilities, I will be rejected by the sea. As long as I fall into the sea, no one will save me. If so, there is only one way to die, such as. Just do what he said. Lin Hai put down the cup in his hand and jumped into the sea. Hey, even so, you don't have to. Before he could finish his words, Zoro saw Lin Hai swimming happily in the sea. Zoro turned to Luffy dully and asked, is he really a devil fruit user? Luffy nodded and said, yes. Zoro couldn't help but grabbed Luffy's head and pointed at Lin Hai and asked, then tell me what is going on. Luffy said with jealousy on his face, Lin Hai, come back quickly, be careful of leg cramps and drowning. Zoro said with a black line on his face, have you ever cursed your partner like this? Please explain to me why Lin Hai can swim freely in the sea since he is a devil fruit user. After Lin Hai returned to the ship and explained it to Zoro, Zoro roughly understood the weaknesses of devil fruit users. It was Lin Hai's special case that he couldn't accept. So, Zoro said, I think Luffy is right. Why didn't you have leg cramps just now? Lin Hai looked at the two of them with disdain and said, jealousy, envy, hate. People are too good, but there is nothing I can do about it. Even God has favored me so much, what can I do? Drown? Are you kidding me? I bother. Zoro couldn't bear it anymore and said, Luffy, let me go, I'm going to kill him. Luffy shook his head and said, Zoro, calm down, we are partners. Lin Hai said, I'm right here. Come and chop me. If you're a friend, come and chop me. Chapter 14 Orange Town. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The three of them had some fun on the boat to pass the boring time during the voyage. Soon, Luffy said curiously, hey, look, there seem to be 3 people in trouble there. Let's go over and rescue them. Zoro agreed, but Lin Hai did not, because Lin Hai could tell from their attire that they should be the crew of the Bucky pirates, but letting them get on the boat was just what Lin Hai wanted, because the people on the boat didn't know how to get to the next island, which was Orange Town. As soon as the 3 clowns got on the boat, as soon as they said thank you, they each pulled out their own knives. One of them said, hey, now I order you to hand over this ship to us quickly. We, the Bucky pirates, will take it. Duong. These 3 pirates can be considered funny. No, they immediately transformed from predators to beggars, Lin Hai said speechlessly. Can you 3 stop talking to us with such disgusting expressions? If I remember correctly, you were the first to plunder, right? It makes us look like we are bullying you. By the way, you just said you were from the Bucky pirates. So Bucky should be around here, right? Take us to him quickly. Luffy asked in confusion, do you know that Bucky? Lin Hai shook his head and said, I heard that guy loves treasures very much. He often goes ashore to plunder the wealth of civilians and destroys the buildings in that place. Do you think that Bucky is looking for trouble? Zoro nodded and said, what a shameless pirate. He specializes in bullying and causing trouble for civilians. It's time to teach him a lesson. Luffy echoed, go to that place, I'm going to beat Bucky up. The 3 Bucky crew members were waiting for these people to go find Bucky and see how Bucky would torture them. Lin Hai on the other side frowned and lectured, Luffy, Zoro, we can't use this reason to beat Bucky. Why? X2. Lin Hai explained, who are we? Pirates. Think about it, when we arrived in the town, we found destroyed buildings everywhere, and there was no place to drink water, you say, as pirates who have traveled a long distance, but in the end we don't even have anything to drink, how can we feel happy? So, as a pirate who does whatever he wants, as a free pirate, how can he endure this result? So I feel very unhappy now. As pirates, we feel uncomfortable beating Bucky. Do we need a reason? Banga. Luffy punched his left palm, and a 500W light bulb lit up next to his head, a glint flashed in Zoro's eyes. Being a pirate seems to be very interesting. But Zoro soon felt bad about himself. Lin Hai and Luffy were seen putting their hands on each other's shoulders and shouting, "Be free, be free." Zoro quickly stabilized his body and roared, "You two bastards, stop it now. If you rock it any more, the boat will capsize." Because Lin Hai had a space backpack, everyone was not short of food, and Luffy didn't use his rubber fruit to eject into the big bird's mouth like in the original novel, thus avoiding that plot. Soon, Orange Town appeared in front of everyone. After a few people landed, Lin Hai couldn't help but said depressedly, "Look, this town is so depressed. You can't even find a human being. I'm so angry. Let's go and settle the account with Bucky and ask him to compensate for the losses that ruined our good mood." "Oh?" Zoro asked with interest, "Then how much compensation do you want him to pay?" Lin Hai said casually, "We are pirates, and we should ask him to compensate. If we don't steal his Bailey, that would be sad. Do you understand?" Zoro raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but exclaimed, "You are really a devil." "Ha ha ha." Luffy stepped forward and said, "Let's go and steal their Bailey." The three of them were walking when the sound of chasing suddenly came from not far away. "Little thief cat, stop right here and give us back our navigation chart. If Captain Bucky discovers that the navigation chart is missing, he will cut us into pieces. This stinky woman is so brave. She even dares to steal our Captain Bucky's things. I must teach her a lesson later." Luffy and the other three stopped immediately. It turned out that the woman being chased was Nami. Looking at Nami running, Lin Hai waved his hand and said, "Hey, Busta girl, Nami, it seems you are in trouble, so goodbye." Everyone couldn't help but be stunned. Shouldn't there be a hero to save the beauty or something? Luffy turned around and said, "Hey Lin Hai, isn't she the navigator we are looking for?" "How can we not save her?" Zoro interrupted. "Hey, they have already come running over, what do you think we should do?" Lin Hai said with a smile, "What should we do?" "What do you think we are here to do?" Beat up Bucky and beat up his crew members too. Before Nami could call for help, Luffy had already beaten them down with punches and kicks. Nami looked at this scene blankly and couldn't help but admired. Silk cake. After reacting, Nami's eyes flashed, and she suggested, "Hey, can we make a deal? I will be your navigator temporarily until you find a new navigator, but in exchange, you have to help me steal Bucky's treasure." "I think this is a good deal." Luffy said, "I'm not interested in those, you should find someone else." Lin Hai explained, "We are pirates, not sneaky people. But we are going to find Bucky. Do you know where he is?" It didn't matter anything, as long as he could steal Bucky's treasure. Since Lin Hai has already said that he is going to find Bucky, judging from this situation, he should go to Bucky to cause trouble, otherwise he would not take action against his men. Thinking of this, Nami said, "I know where he is, you come with me. It's not too late to go now. Let me tell you first that Bucky is a big pirate with a bounty of 1,200 million Baileys. Before we go to see him, we should develop a strategy." Luffy said impatiently, "Stop nagging, I'm going to beat him up." Sauron, kill him. Lin Hai, fight him to death. Yoshi. X3. Nami slapped her forehead, "I'm talking about you." "Oh, forget it, but you should be careful." Lin Hai turned to Nami and said, "What are you worried about?" "What is there to worry about? We are very strong. For example, Luffy can eat a cow, and Zoro can drink a tank of wine. As for me, I can be beaten by me every day. Wake up handsome yourself." that the three people following Lin Hai almost fell down. Chapter 15 Big Red Nose. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under Nami's guidance, Luffy and the others quickly arrived at Bucky's base camp. At this time, the Bucky pirates were holding a banquet, and Lin Hai and the others wondered if they were in the circus. Before Lin Hai and the others were stunned, Luffy smelled the aroma of the food and went up to eat and drink with the Bucky pirates. Nami looked at Lin Hai and Sauron in confusion, her eyes asking, "Is this your captain?" Lin Hai and Sauron looked at each other, and their cheeks turned red. It was so embarrassing. "We were here to cause trouble, but the boss went to eat and drink with others. Can you be a little ambitious?" Regardless, Lin Hai yelled, "Who is that?" Everyone stopped and looked at Lin Hai curiously. I saw Lin Hai walking up to Luffy. In Luffy's confused eyes, Lin Hai said, "Lend me your slippers." After saying that, Lin Hai took a chicken leg and started chewing it. After Luffy handed his slippers to Lin Hai, he started eating again. Lin Hai pointed at Bucky sitting in the central tent with his slippers and said, "That guy named Kiba, don't look around, he's talking about you." Bucky couldn't help but retorted, "Who are you, kid?" "My name is Bucky, not Kiba, don't pronounce other people's names wrong." Lin Hai moved the slippers in his hand 360 degrees in the air, held them again and pointed at Bucky and said, "I don't care who you are the one who destroyed this town. We didn't even have a drink of water when we arrived here. Do you know, I am very angry right now. But as long as you hand over your treasure and get out of Orange Town, we will reluctantly give you a light beating, otherwise, I will use your big, round red nose to dye the sea behind you red." At this time, everyone looked at Lin Hai in stunned silence, and then looked at Bucky in fear, because what Bucky hated most was that others said his nose was big, round, and red. What's more, when Lin Hai came up, he actually gave such a reason and wanted to kidnap the Bucky pirates. Does he really think that the Bucky pirates are just a show-off? Kakaka. Bucky was extremely angry. "Oh no, who the hell are you? Go to hell with your beauty, Bucky." Spinning dart. Space field. Lin Hai used his ability, disappeared instantly, and then slapped Bucky's cheek hard with his slipper. "Bucky." Bucky sighed and flew out. Boom, belling. Bucky, who was whipped away by Lin Hai, knocked over the food on the table. Nami stared blankly at Lin Hai's movements, full of doubts. How did Lin Hai disappear just now, and how did he appear in front of Bucky? At this time, Luffy stopped eating, walked to Lin Hai and complained, "Lin Hai, leave Bucky to me." Lin Hai nodded and said, "Okay." Everyone looked at the direction where Bucky was photographed, and there was a cloud of dust there. When the dust cleared, Bucky stood there as if nothing had happened, but there were already two people standing beside him, Kabaki and Machi. These two were Bucky's right-hand men. Seeing Kabaki riding a unicycle, Zoro suddenly became interested. "Luffy, leave the guy with the sword to me." Luffy nodded and said, "Yeah." Opposite Lin Hai, Bucky asked, "Who are you?" "Bounty hunters." Luffy replied, "No, we are pirates, and the two next to us are my partners." "Oh." Bucky asked Luffy and the others curiously, "Are you here to steal my treasure? Or is it like what the bastard with the slippers said just now?" Before Luffy could answer, an old man walked out not far away. The old man came forward wearing armor and holding a weapon and said, "Bucky, I want to duel with you." Bucky said angrily, "Don't interrupt other people's conversations." "Who are you?" The old man said, "I am the mayor here. We have worked hard to build the buildings here for decades. You actually destroyed our treasure like this." "Ha ha ha." Bucky interrupted, "Are you kidding me? These houses are not treasures. Only glittering treasures are treasures. Don't laugh to death." The mayor said angrily, "People like you won't understand my feelings. Come on, let's fight to the death." Before the mayor could finish speaking, Lin Hai hit the mayor on the back of the neck with a knife, causing the mayor to faint. Nami exclaimed, "Lin Hai." "Why?" Luffy simply said, "In the way." Seeing that Nami still didn't understand, Zoro explained, "If I don't knock him out, he will die." Lin Hai said speechlessly, "You are thinking too much, right? I'm not happy that he interrupted me just now. Nami rolled her eyes at Lin Hai and muttered, she's always tough talking. At this time, Luffy adjusted his hat, took a deep breath, and shouted, big red nose. The echoes are lingering, the lingering sound is lingering, it is wonderful. Kakaka. Bucky's eyes widened, that bastard wearing a straw hat, please die gorgeously. Soon, Luffy and Bucky started fighting, Zoro fought with Kabaki, and Machi chose to fight Lin Hai. Nami ran out secretly, presumably to steal the treasure. Machi yelled, Li Ji. I saw a lion the size of a small house walking out of the darkness, Machi ordered, crush him. Lin Hai glared at the lion, but the lion kept retreating in fear, and then wished he could grow 8 legs and stay away from that scary guy. Machi saw Li Ji running away inexplicably, and when he was about to chase him, Lin Hai appeared next to Machi with Sha, grabbed Machi's shoulders and shouted, go, Pikachu. The result made Lin Hai satisfied. No, Machi just hit the big lion, and the two of them flew out at the same time. Lin Hai couldn't help but be a little disappointed. Although he had trained his abilities, these guys were really weak and seemed to have no effect on improving his abilities at all. When Lin Hai was free, he found that all of Bucky's crew members were lying on the ground and pretending to be dead. However, Lin Hai was still not interested in this, so let them go. Not far away, Saran was fighting fiercely with Kabaki. Watching their battle, Lin Hai couldn't help but shake his head. Although Kabaki's fighting method is flashy, Zoro's moves are not flashy. Is this the so-called lack of strength in using tricks to make up for it? Chapter 16 What about the 8 times? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kabaki, so you are the famous bounty hunter in the East China Sea, Roronoa Zoro. I am really lucky today. I heard that if I defeat you, I will be famous all over the world. Saran said contemptuously, my goal is to be number 1 in the world, how could I lose to a little guy like you? But I want to ask, are you doing acrobatics? Lin Hai on the side couldn't stand it any longer. If he wanted to fight, he would fight. It was really a waste of Lin Hai's expectations. He should go and watch the duel between Luffy and Bucky. Just as they approached the place where Luffy and Bucky were dueling, they saw Nami coming out carrying 2 large packages. Lin Hai couldn't help but stepped forward and said, little thieving cat, everyone who sees it has a share. Nami held the 2 big packages warily, anyone who sees it has a share, these are all my things. What's yours? That's mine. Bucky rushed over from a short distance away and said angrily, give me my treasure quickly. Nami explained confidently, what are you talking about? I stole this, and now it is mine. Lin Hai nodded in agreement, if it's yours, ask these treasures and see if they can answer you. Bucky looked sullenly, what kind of education did you bastards receive? If you steal other people's things, then those things are yours. Hey! Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, you are highly educated, but you just specialize in grabbing the wealth of the poor and taking it for yourself. Ha ha ha. Nami replied, that's right, the pirate actually came to educate the thief, it's really funny. Kakaka. Bucky showed a few knives, raised his head and said, you 2 brats, give me gorgeous. Before Bucky could finish speaking, an elongated fist suddenly hit him not far away, and Luffy roared, asshole, your opponent is me. Bucky was punched against the wall by Luffy. Nami looked at Bucky flying out blankly, and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Did Bucky lose? How is that possible? That's Lord Bucky. The result was obvious, Bucky got up again and started fighting with Luffy, however, Bucky was chasing Nami while fighting. It seemed that Bucky was too concerned about the treasure, and distraction is a taboo in battle. The result was just like the original work, Bucky was blown away. Lin Hai, who was sitting on the side, clapped his hands and complained, Luffy, are you playing too slowly? Luffy explained, that guy is such a monster. He always splits into so many pieces. If I hadn't found his weakness, which is that his feet can't leave the ground, I really don't know how to defeat him. Hey! Zoro stepped forward and said, it seems that you have also solved the battle. At this time, a group of townspeople came not far away, and one of them asked, "Hey, have you seen our mayor?" Lin Hai pointed to the place below the house. Several townspeople quickly ran over to check it out. "Have a look, is the mayor still alive?" "Who is it? How dare you do this to our mayor?" "It must be those pirates, let's go fight them." Nami couldn't help but remind her, "Well, your mayor is fine, he just fainted." One of the townspeople asked, "Little girl, how did you know? By the way, who are you?" Luffy showed an innocent smile and explained, "Oh, we are pirates. Your mayor was knocked unconscious by Lin Hai at that time." "Ahem," Luffy explained in a decent manner, completely unaware of the twitching eyes of the people next to him. After hearing Luffy's explanation, the townspeople immediately lost their composure. "You are actually pirates and you injured our mayor." Seeing that the townspeople were actually using tools as weapons, they looked at Lin Hai with unkind expressions. Lin Hai had no choice but to step forward, pull Luffy and say, "Why are you so cruel to me? I was the one who beat up your mayor, but he is my captain." Lin Hai pulled Luffy forward and said again, "If anything happens, my captain will bear the responsibility. If anything happens, go to him. My captain is a man who wants to become the pirate king, but you have to be careful that after he becomes the pirate king, he will come back and beat you up. So, if you are not afraid, just come here, you stinking townsfolk." As soon as he finished speaking, without giving everyone time to react, Lin Hai had already picked up Nami and ran away. Everything happened so fast, like a tornado, a gust of wind blew through the street, and Lin Hai was nowhere to be seen. Zoro was almost defeated by Lin Hai's operation. After coming back to his senses, Sauron asked playfully, "What should we do now?" "My captain." "Ha ha ha." Luffy turned around and ran away. "Let's run away too." "Nanny." Finally, the townspeople were thrown away. Because Luffy's boat was too small, he borrowed the slightly larger boat next to Bucky's crew. Soon, several people took the boat away from the island. After seeing that she was safe, Nami couldn't help but ask Lin Hai, "Lin Hai, you just pinched my butt, right?" Zoro and Luffy suddenly became energetic and couldn't help but prick up their ears to listen to the gossip. Lin Hai quickly denied, "It's nothing. I might have bumped into him accidentally because I was running too fast just now." Nami crossed her arms and continued to ask with interest, "Once or twice can be said to be an accident, but what about 8 times? Luffy on the side couldn't help but said with disdain, "Lin Hai, it turns out you are this kind of person." Sauron echoed, "I knew Lin Hai was a pervert." If Nami hadn't been watching him, Lin Hai would have argued with them. Is there such a thing as adding insult to injury? He definitely abandoned them when he was running away, and now he is taking revenge on himself. Seeing that Lin Hai didn't answer, Nami continued, "No, I will suffer too much. You must pay me 80 Baileys." Lin Hai looked at Nami with wide eyes and exclaimed, "Who do you think you are? I just saved 80 Baileys." Nami nodded and replied, 80 Baileys, I don't have it now, you can pay it back to me in the future. Wipe. Is she so shameless? So, Lin Hai stepped forward and suggested, "Nami, how can I have so many Baileys, how about I give you that of myself?" As. Ha ha ha. Lin Hai, I didn't expect you to be so shameless, you made me laugh so hard, ha ha ha. Although Nami has seen many scenes, she is still only a 17-year-old girl. Facing Lin Hai's shameless proposal, he couldn't help but blush. The embarrassed Nami glared at the three of them fiercely. Suddenly, the three of them quickly shut their mouths and sat aside obediently. Lin Hai quickly called up his property panel, host, Lin Hai, strength, 1700, 1400 plus 300, agility, 160, 140 plus 20, physical strength, 3200, 2700 plus 500, overlord color domineering, LV2, shock the opponent, can control the release freely. For those with weak will, it will be stunned directly. Coquettish coin, .9300.1, 7800.1 plus 1500, space backpack, knife, sword, alias, Gao phone, friendly reminder from the system, host please keep up your efforts and show off your skills. Chapter 17 The Dream of Furious Nami and Lin Hai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The ship had just sailed for a while, and when Nami glanced at the bag containing the treasure, she vaguely noticed something was wrong. Why is there only one bag? What about another one? Seeing something was wrong with Nami, Luffy asked, "What's wrong?" Nami exclaimed, "There are 2 bags of treasure here, why is one missing?" Lin Hai took out his ears and replied, "I returned a bag to the villagers." Nami said angrily, "That's mine." Lin Hai said contemptuously, "That's the hard-earned money of the townspeople, yours? It's really shameless." Before he could finish speaking, Lin Hai was violently pushed into the sea by Nami. Lin Hai quickly said, "Stop it, do you want to drown me?" "We are partners." Nami was almost furious and retorted, "Whoever is your partner, I will drown you right now." Luffy on the side said, "Nami, since you like it so much, let's go back and get it back." Well. Luffy was also dragged into the water by Nami. Luffy quickly said, "I can't swim, I will die. Also, it wasn't me, so let go." Nami sneered and said, "I'm going to drown you because I can't swim. You are his captain, and you have nothing to do with what he does." Ha ha ha. Zoro looked at these 2 embarrassed guys and suddenly felt very happy. Fortunately, after Nami was angry for a while, she let Lin Hai and Luffy go. At this time, Lin Hai quickly bought a mirror and comb from the system and took care of his hairstyle. "Because I was drowned by Nami just now, my hair is all messed up." Sauron on the side couldn't help but asked curiously, "Lin Hai, what are you doing?" Lin Hai replied seriously, "Hairstyle is a man's soul. In my hometown, people often say that the head can be broken and blood can flow, but the hairstyle cannot be messed up. Do you understand?" "Hey." Sauron turned his back to Lin Hai and muttered, "It's boring, just do unnecessary things." Nami on the other side frowned, but Luffy is different, with a handsome hairstyle of 46 points. Is this a man's romance? Luffy couldn't help but said, "Lin Hai, give me a hairdo." Although Zoro said he was bored, he still looked back secretly to observe. Soon, Lin Hai had a 4 to 6 hairstyle, and Luffy had a big back hairstyle. Then Lin Hai took out 2 pairs of sunglasses from the system space and put them on each. Lin Hai and Luffy looked at each other, put their hands on each other's shoulders again, and shouted, "Romantic, romantic." "Duong, duong." Nami said angrily, "Do you want to capsize the boat?" Ha ha ha. Zoro on the side held his stomach and kept laughing. However, Zoro quickly shut his mouth after receiving a glare from Nami. "Nami, this stinky woman, is really unreasonable. She beats herself at every turn, and her newly made hairstyle was messed up again. Is it bearable? What is unbearable?" Lin Hai, who was very unhappy, stood up and pointed angrily and said, "Nami, don't think that because you are a woman, I won't beat you. I'm even afraid of getting angry. Can you try moving again? Will you move again? Damn it, don't slap me in the face." Nami clapped her hands and raised her eyebrows at Luffy, who pouted his lips to the sky. Zoro, who was laughing, quickly imitated Luffy and looked towards the horizon. After sailing for a while, Lin Hai's scar healed and he forgot about the pain. Lin Hai stepped forward and put his arm around Nami's shoulders and asked, "Nami, how long until we can reach the next island?" Nami glanced at Lin Hai and said, "Let go." Lin Hai quickly took back his hand and scratched his head and said, "I can't help it, I can't help it. Who made you have such a good figure?" Luffy, pervert. Zoro, what a shame. Lin Hai said angrily, "Who is like you 2 bastards, one is a foodie and the other is an alcoholic." What did you say? X2. Lin Hai pulled up his sleeves and said, "Do you 2 want to fight? Be careful that I beat you until you call me mom." Zoro nodded and said, "Hey, there was one who was beaten up just now and was begging for mercy." Revealing scars again. Lin Hai said angrily, "What did you say?" Nami stepped forward and stood between the 2 of them, saying, "Don't argue, it will take about half a day to arrive. If we find the navigator there by then, our agreement will be considered completed." Upon hearing that Nami was about to say goodbye, everyone fell silent. Seeing the opportunity, Lin Hai quickly hugged Nami's waist and cried, "Nami, will you be our navigator? If I don't see you every day, I feel like I will lose hope in life." Zoro on the side couldn't help but complain, Hey, your crying is too fake, right?" Lin Hai quickly changed his face and said, "It's none of your business, let's just play." Then Lin Hai turned back to crying and said, "Nami, do you know? Ever since I met you, I can't bear to be a nun. We are like Shiman Qing meeting Pan Jinlian, and like Tang Sanzang meeting Spider Spirit." Lin Hai secretly hated him. Why didn't he remember more of those love words in his previous life? I don't know what to say at the critical moment. Nami looked down at Lin Hai, who was performing poorly, and said, "What else? Keep talking, am I listening?" Bah. Zoro turned his head and said speechlessly, "What a mess." But Luffy looked at Lin Hai with bright eyes and exclaimed, "Silk cake one, silk cake one." Looking at Nami's eyes, Lin Hai quickly let go of his hand and looked up at the sky. "Ah, the sky is so blue today. Ah, the sea is full of water. Ah." Nami said angrily, "Ah what? If you continue to do this before you finish it, I will throw you into the sea." Come on, half a day, how can I spend this time without making some jokes? Forget it. Lin Hai was bored and had to sleep on the side. Soon, Lin Hai fell into sleep. In the dream, in a lively execution platform square, people are discussing. How could such a powerful person be caught by the Navy? Yeah, it's a pity, I don't know where the treasure of One Piece is. If we find him, we won't have to worry about him for the rest of his life. I heard that he was captured by Fire Fist Ace. The two fought for 10 days and 10 nights. In the end, Fire Fist Ace was slightly better. I know this. Navy hero, Fire Fist Ace. Lin Hai in the square was very confused. Navy hero Fire Fist Ace. This is a scam. Following people's gaze towards the execution platform, Lin Hai secretly exclaimed, "Isn't this Blackbeard, Tiki? This is a scam." When the execution was about to take place, there was silence in the square. People did not dare to vent their anger loudly and quietly looked at the Blackbeard on the execution platform. Suddenly someone said, "Pirate King, where is your treasure?" "It's the legendary One Piece." The corners of Blackbeard's mouth on the execution platform were slightly raised, and he said boldly, "Do you want a photo of Nami? Want Robin's stockings? Want the Empress's lace? Go ahead, I put it all out there." Ah oh. Lin Hai woke up from his dream and couldn't help laughing. It was really, this is a scam. Chapter 18 Xiluobu Village. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's so refreshing when I wake up. The gentle sea breeze ripples the sea water, just like Lin Hai's unruly heart. When Nami saw Lin Hai looking at her, she couldn't help but glared. "What are you looking at?" "Like a pig." Lin Hai shook his head quickly. "This woman is beautiful, but her character is too bad. She must not be a partner." Luffy, who was sitting on the bow of the boat, immediately exclaimed, "Look, there's an island ahead." Suddenly, everyone became energetic and could finally go ashore. Once ashore, Zoro couldn't help but step on the ground and sighed, "It still feels solid on land." Lin Hai said with a smile, "Of course I'm at ease. I can buy some wine later." Luffy said quickly, "Then what are you waiting for? Eat, eat." Nami said speechlessly, "You should find a ship first, right? That ship won't sail for long." The few people were walking for a while when Zoro suddenly reminded, "Luffy, be careful. Bayou, bayou, bayou." Several marbles appeared on the ground. Room. The marble-shooting Usopp, the long-nosed man who had been idle and lying all day long in this village, suddenly appeared in front of Lin Hai. Usopp was still confused when Lin Hai flicked his nose and exclaimed, "Come and see, his nose is real." "Hey, where was your nose made?" Everyone couldn't help but darken their faces, and the three children hiding in the woods were so frightened that they abandoned Usopp and ran away. Originally, Usopp saw the flag on the airship and thought it was pirates who were about to invade the village. After some discussion, Usopp and the three children decided to scare away the pirates who came to the village. Who knows, just as he fired a few slingshots, Usopp found himself inexplicably appearing below the high cliff, in front of Lin Hai. At this time, Usopp didn't hear Lin Hai's words at all, but looked at the high cliff above and then in front of him, forcing himself to calm down and said, "What on earth did you do to me? I can tell you pirates, I have 80 million men, if you don't leave, I will order them to take action." At this time, Luffy stepped forward and said, "Your name is Usopp, right? Your father is Jesus Boo, right?" Usopp was surprised. "How do you know my father?" "My father's name is indeed Jesus Boo," Luffy explained. "I knew your father when I was a kid. He was on Shanks' ship at that time. It's so nostalgic, hahaha. When I first saw you, I guessed that you were Jesus Boo's son, because you two look exactly the same." Usopp said in surprise, "Really? I didn't expect that my father was on the ship of such a famous pirate." "So is he still on his ship now?" Luffy shook his head and said, "We haven't seen each other for many years, but he should still be on Shanks' ship." "Ha ha ha." Usopp said, "Since you know my father, then we are friends, let me treat you to dinner." Luffy's eyes lit up and he said, "Really? You are such a good person, Usopp." Nami quickly moved away from Luffy. "What on earth is going on with this guy? Ouch." As they were walking forward, Usopp realized what he was doing and asked Lin Hai quickly, "How did you change me from one place to another just now? Could it be that you are a monster?" Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, "I am a devil fruit that ate the space fruit. In the ability field I opened, I can control the things inside at will, whether it is people or objects." Except for Luffy, everyone else looked at Lin Hai in surprise. Usopp couldn't help but exclaimed, "Your ability is too abnormal, isn't it? So, wouldn't you be invincible?" Lin Hai said with a smile, "Invincible is nothing. There are still many powers that you don't know about. Forget it, it's quite troublesome to explain. I'll leave it to you to discover slowly." Usopp sighed, "The sea is really full of wonders. I didn't expect such things as devil fruits to really exist." Nami smiled and said, "What's so strange? Luffy is also an esper who ate a devil fruit." Luffy turned his head, stretched his cheeks, and introduced, "I am an esper who ate the rubber fruit." "Nanny." Usopp was startled. Lin Hai said disdainfully, "What a fuss, Sauron next to you can use 3 swords at the same time." Usopp looked Zoro up and down and asked very curiously, "If you use one in each hand, how can you use the other one?" Zoro rolled his eyes and said, "You are really annoying, hurry up and enter the village." Lin Hai secretly whispered in Usopp's ear, "Bite the remaining handful with your mouth and beat them. Aren't you surprised? Asshole." Zoro stared at the two of them and said, "Believe it or not, I will chop you two down." Ha ha ha. Cheers. Usopp took a few people to a small shop in the village for dinner. For a moment, Usopp couldn't help but ask, "Zoran, are you the famous pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro?" Silk Cake 1. Zoro explained, "I am no longer a pirate hunter, but now I am a member of their ship." After they ate for a while, Nami asked, "Usopp, since Luffy and your father know each other, now, I wonder if I can find a partner and a big boat in your village who can drive a boat." Usopp, as you can see, this is a small village. It's a pity that I have to disappoint you. Zoro said amusedly, "There is a very big villa on the hill." Nami, are you Usopp's friend? Can you ask him to help with some money? Usopp, that's not okay there. Ah, I suddenly remembered that I still have something to do. I know the boss here very well. You can just eat and drink. I'm leaving. Several people watched Usopp hurried out of the store, and Nami couldn't help but feel depressed, looking at the few people eating and drinking carelessly there. Nami couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you worried that you won't be able to sail without ships and navigators?" Luffy comforted him, "Don't worry, Nami, there will always be a boat. Let's eat first." Ah. Lin Hai, those are my chicken legs. Sauron, Lin Hai, you bastard, if you want a drink, go get it yourself. Nami slapped her forehead, she was really tired. Well, I'm so full. While several people were sitting on chairs to rest, 3 children who had escaped on the shore rushed into the shop. One of them had the courage to step forward and asked, "What did you do to our Captain Usopp?" It turns out that after the 3 children escaped, their consciences found out and they came back to save Usopp. Several people looked at Luffy's bulging belly and couldn't help but said in horror, Don't you think you can give Usopp, give?" Zoro showed an evil look and joked, "Yes, your Captain Usopp has been eaten by us, he 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 he. Ah! Monster." Chapter 19 Usopp's Cowhide. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ah, it's so noisy. Nami couldn't stand the surprise of these 3 children, and couldn't help but said angrily. However, the 3 children were even more frightened when they saw the angry Nami. The 3 couldn't help hugging each other. "Ah, dominatrix. Ha ha ha." Luffy explained, "Your Usopp just seemed to have something in the middle of his meal and left." One of them, named Onion 2, asked, "Is this really the case?" The garlic-headed man suddenly remembered, "I know, Usopp should have gone to tell a story to Miss Kia." Luffy said contemptuously, "What?" It turns out that Usopp is a man who forgets his friends after seeing sex. One of the green pepper-headed children retorted, "That's not the case. Miss Kia has been unable to get over her sadness since her parents passed away. It was Usopp telling her stories every day that made Miss Kia gradually become cheerful. And the body is getting better." Garlic Head echoed, "That's right, you are not allowed to say that about our Captain Usopp." Luffy exclaimed, "It turns out Usopp is a great man." Lin Hai patted Luffy's shoulder with one hand and couldn't help but said, "Aren't you too receptive? Just like the wind, now this, now that." Nami hurriedly stepped forward and asked, "Is the Miss Kia you are talking about the owner of the big house living on the hillside?" Seeing the 3 children nodding, Nami continued to ask, "Can you take us to Usopp?" "Sure." Lin Hai glanced at Nami and couldn't help but sigh that the little thief cat is just a little thief cat, he is really full of scheming. Luffy clapped his hands and decided, "Yoshi, let's go find Usopp." On the hillside, in Kia's villa, at this time, Kia was standing by the window, listening to Usopp standing on the big branch telling stories about the handsome guy we met together in those years. Usopp said very proudly, "Koya, do you know? He is a hot man. He has a charming figure, sword-like eyes and brows, and a nose that looks like courage. He is unparalleled in splendor and independent in the world. He has a sword that can move mountains, topple seas, cut off mountains and rivers, and establish the universe. The hot man is the author. He is really handsome, so handsome that he is scumbag, so handsome that he is a mess, so handsome that he is hacked." Kia nodded constantly by the window, her eyes shining brightly, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Seeing Kia's interest, Usopp continued mysteriously, "But there is someone more handsome than the author." "Do you know who it is?" Kia showed horror on her face, and asked quickly, "Is there anyone more handsome?" "How handsome is that?" "Silk Cake 1. Nah, tell me quickly, Usopp." At this time, Usopp thought for a moment and said with a serious face, "It's those readers. Once I saw those readers, they were so handsome that they almost blinded my 24K titanium alloy dog eyes. I have never seen such handsome men in my life. They punched the Yonko and kicked the Marines." Waving his sleeves, the 5 old stars bowed their heads and bowed. "Kia, remember this sentence. In this world, you would rather be accused of killing Tianlong people than offend the readers, do you understand?" After saying that, Usopp wiped the sweat from his forehead, and then patted his chest with lingering fear. Kia said gratefully, "Usopp, thank you for telling me this." After saying that, Kia looked into the distance, as if she was looking forward to meeting the reader, those legendary readers. It would be great if you could meet them. Thinking of this, Kia shyly closed her legs and screamed, "Yeah." Luffy and the others who arrived here just happened to hear Usopp talking about those legendary handsome guys. Lin Hai was a little confused. The author is so handsome, but the reader is actually more handsome than him. So where can Lin Hai rank? Sure enough, the world of pirates is really unfathomable, with abnormal strength and exaggerated looks. As long as you don't compete with yourself for those beautiful women. Thinking of this, Lin Hai suddenly felt a lot more at ease, but Luffy next to Lin Hai was different from the three children. His eyes were shining brighter than the car lights. See Cake 1. Luffy asked, sweating profusely, I really want to meet those readers. Zoro on the side murmured with interest, I would like to meet him if I have the chance. Kia by the window saw Luffy and his group and asked with a smile, who are you? Nami said first, we are people passing by and friends of Usopp. We came here to ask if you have any unused boats here and give us one. Lin Hai on the side couldn't help but marvel at Nami's shamelessness. How dare you make such a shameless request when we meet for the first time? Is this what everyone specializes in? Crabiter, who was eavesdropping on the side, heard that the woman actually asked Kia to give her a ship. How is this possible? Those things will soon be his property. How can he give them to others? Unable to bear it, Krabatar came over from outside and interrupted the conversation between Kia and Nami. Krabatar hates Usopp so much. What kind of friends did he bring? Send a ship? Yes. Krabatar said, the ship you want is not available here. And Usopp, come down from the tree quickly and get out of here. We don't welcome you, a guy who tells lies and brags. Usopp said angrily, I admit that I usually brag, but why did I keep telling lies? The story I just told is true. Ha ha ha. Krabatar sneered, does it really exist? Let's not talk about the readers. How could the author you mentioned be so handsome? Let alone be more handsome than him. Handsome reader? If this isn't a lie, what is it? Usopp defended, just because you haven't seen him doesn't mean he doesn't exist. People like you who have no dreams should stop making random comments about others, okay? At this time, Usopp's tool fell from the tree trunk to the ground, and Krabatar mocked, are you making random comments? Everyone knows what you are thinking. Who doesn't know your thoughts? You love to make up lies every day to deceive our eldest lady, and then gain her favor in order to gain the family property here. Right? Being insulted over and over again, Usopp couldn't help but stepped forward and punched Krabatar to the ground. People like you don't understand what romance is at all, shut up. Hey. Krabatar spat and said, pirates are pirates. As the son of a pirate, you also have that kind of violent gene. How can you change your hands if you can't defeat others? What did you say? Usopp was about to go up and beat Krabatar again, but at this moment, Kia shouted, enough Usopp, stop using violence, violence can't solve the problem, can you go back first? But Yadu said so, what can Usopp do? Violence can't solve the problem. I don't know why, but Usopp's heart felt a little painful, especially when these words came from Kia's mouth. At this time, Krabatar stood up and said, get out of here quickly, and you are not allowed to approach the eldest lady in the future. And the group of people over there, please leave here. Zoro, don't stop me, I'm going to beat him up. Stinky Butler, I'm going to beat you away. Luffy was being held by Zoro, his hands and feet shaking around. Zoro advised, hey Luffy, don't mess around, don't make things more complicated. Lin Hai looked at Krabatar for a while and knew that he was a pirate captain, by Xiluobu. It's just that it's not the time to do it yourself yet, so I'd better leave first. Chapter 20 Lin Hai was revenged. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Luffy and the others left Kia's villa, Usopp said uninterestedly, I'm going to go for a walk first, let me be alone. How many people could tell that Usopp seemed to be shocked? When they reached the fence in the wilderness, Luffy ran away. Nami asked, where should we go now? Zoro shook his head and said, Luffy is not here, we should wait for him here. Hey. Lin Hai said, have you seen that bad guy in the distance? He's walking backwards, I just saw that person not far away taking a moonwalk. Several people just watched in silence as the man walked up to them. Of course Lin Hai knew that this was Zhangao, the current acting captain of the Black Cat Pirates. Zhangao stopped and said, I'm not a weirdo, I'm not weird at all, okay? One of the children asked, "Who are you?" "Me." Zhang introduced, "My name is Zhang, a hypnotist." "Hypnotist?" The three children stepped forward with great interest, and one of them asked, "So you have a unique skill? Can you show it to us?" Lin Hai couldn't help but murmured, "A child is a child, what kind of unique skills does he have?" Nami said contemptuously, "Looking at you, it's obvious that you just want to see me, right?" Zhang quickly slapped away Lin Hai's hand holding his, which meant that he wouldn't be allowed to leave without showing his hands. After all, Lin Hai was still very interested in this incredible hypnosis technique. Lin Hai didn't believe that he could really hypnotize himself. After slapping Lin Hai's hand away, Zhang said, "Are you kidding? We are not acquaintances, why should I show you my special skills?" After saying that, Django quickly took out a watch from his arms and said, "You look at this watch, I count 1, 2, when Django, you will fall asleep. 1, 2, Django. ZZZZZZ. X5. In an instant, Zhang, Lin Hai and the three children all fell asleep. Hey! Zoro still didn't understand, so he just fell asleep. Nami on the side slapped her forehead, turned to Zoro and asked, "Is this your partner?" Zoro couldn't help but blush, and said quickly, "I'd better pull them aside. The place where they sleep is in the middle of the road, the faster you fall asleep, the faster you wake up." Zhang, who woke up, had already left, and Lin Hai couldn't help but blush at the playful looks in Zoro and Nami's eyes, and quickly defended, "That guy still has something," looking at the swinging clock, "I don't know why. It was a good sleep, right?" "Yes." The three children replied at the same time. Zoro didn't bother to pay attention, but asked, "Where are we going now?" "I don't know where Luffy went." Lin Hai said, "Why don't you go back to the snack bar?" Nami echoed, "It's better to be there than outside here." On the other side, Usopp, who was in a bad mood, was sitting on the grass under a big tree on a high cliff, looking at the sea. He was startled by Luffy, who rushed here. It turned out that Luffy came down from the big tree. After the two chatted for a while, they suddenly found that the butler Kravatar and Zhang were talking about some conspiracy. From their conversation, Usopp and Luffy understood that Kravatar was actually the great pirate 100 Plan Crow who became famous 3 years ago, and the man next to him was the vice-captain's hypnotist Django. The two decided to let Django lead the pirate group to attack the village at dawn tomorrow. Then he used Django's hypnosis to hypnotize Kia, and asked Kia to make a will and leave her property to her housekeeper Kravatal, who is the captain of the Black Cat Pirates, Crow, who hides his identity. After hearing these conspiracies, Luffy stopped hiding and suddenly stood up and said to Crow and Django, "Hey, you are not allowed to hurt the people in this village." Seeing that the matter was exposed, Crow immediately ordered Zhang to take action. As a result, Luffy was hypnotized and fell off a cliff, but Usopp thought it was a hidden weapon and escaped the fate of being hypnotized. After falling from such a high place, everyone thought Luffy was dead. Django wanted to chase Usopp, but Crow said, "There is no need to chase him. No one believes what he said because he no longer has trust in this village." "Got it." Crow is right. Usopp canvassed the village again, but except for being scolded, everything was the same as usual, especially after Usopp explained to Kia. Kia became even more disappointed with Usopp. When Usopp, who was in a depressed mood, returned to the shop, he suddenly saw Luffy and his group eating and drinking there. Usopp couldn't help but stepped forward and asked, "Luffy, aren't you already dead?" Lin Hai said contemptuously, "He is just a pile of rubber. Have you ever seen rubber that will kill you?" Usopp sighed and sat on the side of the table. "That's it." Hey, hey. Lin Hai said speechlessly, "What kind of virtue do I say you have? Are you too fragile? You still want to be a brave maritime warrior? Looking at you now, you are exactly as the hypocritical butler said, always bragging." Seeing Lin Hai hitting Usopp like this, Nami couldn't help but said, "Lin Hai, how could you be so?" Lin Hai raised his hand to stop him. "That's the truth, right?" Usopp stood up and said, "What can I do? They are real pirates. I can't save the villagers. No, I can't let them hurt the villagers here, even if they risk my life tomorrow." Luffy smiled and said, "Hey Usopp, there are us too, Usopp said excitedly. You? Are you really willing to help me? That's great. Woohoo. Lin Hai pushed Usopp away speechlessly. Don't let your snot flow on me. I didn't say I would help you. Look at your virtue, my balls hurt. Huh? Luffy asked doubtfully, Lin Hai, aren't you going to participate tomorrow? Lin Hai shook his head and said, Luffy, we are pirates, not the Virgin. Look, are the food in this store delicious? Lin Hai clapped his hands and said, isn't that enough? How can I let him be harmed after receiving the favor of the shop owner? However, those pirates wanted to hurt him. You said, as a person, we can do whatever we want, as free people, of course we should beat up those pirates. Banga, Usopp said weakly, but I paid for it. Lin Hai couldn't help but be stunned. There was a loophole in his reason. Is this a slap in the face? Thinking of this, Lin Hai turned to look at Usopp dangerously and said, don't I want to lose face? If you have the guts, could you say what you just said again? Ha ha ha. Everyone couldn't help laughing. Nami, I know how to be tough talking. Usopp hugged Lin Hai and said loudly, arigato. No, don't rub your nose on me, it's disgusting. Lin Hai felt like he was about to collapse. Usopp, why don't you hug them? It must be retaliation for what I just said about you, right? Ah. I was discovered by you. Grass. Ha ha ha.